Hello, everyone. Come on into the room because guess what? We are about to go to our second presentation in our 3-day financial series all about money. We are talking about seeing money, getting money, tracking money, and growing money. And so we are so excited to get ready for our next presenter to come on. Before we go on, I just want to cover a couple of points to make sure that everyone knows that we are going to do questions at the end. So guess what? Yes, you can go ahead and put your questions in the chat, and then we'll be able to get to that part during the Q&A. We are so excited to bring in our presenter. Y'all, in this session, we are going to be covering the topic of getting money, creative and non-traditional ways of obtaining money. I know we can all use this. So super excited. And so our presenter that is getting ready to come to the stage is Marjorie Rucker. And y'all, Marjorie is the executive director of the Business Council Inc., TBC. She is going to give us some great information. Get your pens and paper out, take some notes, get ready to ask questions. And we are so excited. So we would like to welcome Marjorie.
Hey, Ramona.
Hey, so I'm going to get you up with your presentation and you are ready to go.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Today we are going to talk about creative and non-traditional ways of obtaining money for your business. Next slide. So there's a little bit about me. I am the current executive director of the Business Council, which is a 23-year-old organization that is dedicated to helping MBEs learn how to access supply chains successfully and create long-term relationships with corporations. I am also the current chair of the Ethnic and Diverse Business Coalition, which is a coalition of 18 chambers of commerce and CDFIs that serve specifically ethnic and diverse, so that's LGBT, as well as veteran-owned businesses here in the state of Wisconsin. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk about getting money, but first we got to do some housekeeping, okay? I need you to make sure that you have your business house in order. By that, I mean this. Make sure that you are registered properly with all of the different public entities. So, whether it's the state, your local municipality, or the federal government, make sure that your business is registered properly with those entities. I know this is based on the industry and the sector you're in, but please, 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 please do this, okay? You have to get your house in order before you can access any type of capital, okay? So please do that. The other thing that I'm going to address, and I know this will be talked about within this series, but definitely get you some financial software, and bookkeeping is a must, okay? You cannot have a business if you do not have financials, okay? So I need you all to make sure that you have a financial software that you are using to track your income as well as your expenses. Okay, if you do not know how to do that, reach out to partners like Colorbold, as well as other providers. Technical assistance providers is what we're called. That's shop talk for people that help you grow your business. But please, please, please get you some financial accounting software. Do not rely on, some of these different platforms that might keep that information for you. That's great, fine, and dandy. But at the end of the day, you need a separate financial software that you're using, again, to track your income as well as your expenditures, okay, or your expenses. All right. Get your messaging and your PR, your public relations, or your branding language together. Okay. When we start talking about accessing a lot of these opportunities, I need you to make sure that you can clearly, distinctly, and also efficiently tell people what it is that you do or the problem that you're trying to solve. when you're moving forward in your business, okay? And you're looking to access capital. So with that said, next slide, please. Know your lane and stick to it. What do I mean by this? This is what I mean. Determine 1 to 2 ways in which you want to grow your business in the next couple of years. No more than 2. The reason why, you cannot do everything at once. If you chase money, it will be an epic fail on your business as you're moving forward and you're growing. Okay, so make sure that you really sit down when you look at your business plan, or you look at the plan that you have for your business in the next 1 or 2 years. Pick out those 1, no more than 2 things that you're going to go hard with, and make sure you go hard. I always tell people to look at their business like this, depending on, if you're a startup business all the way to an existing business. It's like having a child, right? And you're always, when it comes to children, we always want to make sure that we're doing what's best for that child. It applies to your business. If you want to see real growth and sustainability years down the line, make sure that you are really focused, that you can clearly articulate what it is that you do or the value add that you have in the marketplace, and make sure that you are able to share that with anybody that asks you, so that you can go on and continue to build those solid business relationships and access capital. Your business growth will be based on your industry. That's obvious, right? So what might work for one type of business might not work for another type of business, right? However, what I need you to do when you're focusing on those 1 or 2 things to do for your business, make sure, okay, that you are also highlighting whether or not, based on your business goals, if you're going to be pursuing public entities like the city, the county, or the state, as far as business growth or how you're going to grow your business, or if you're just going to stick within the private sector and just do business to business, small business to small business, if you're going to pitch to medium-sized businesses, etc. The reason I say that is because based on what your goals are for your business, so remember those 1 to 2 things, along with how you plan to grow your business, is going to impact how you go about accessing capital. If you don't know how to go through this process, or it seems really daunting, please, please, please reach out to Colorbold or someone else, again, that offers technical assistance, and let's find you a mentor or a coach. Okay, there are programs out there that are cost effective. I know that coaches, especially one-on-one, and mentors can be very cost prohibitive, especially when you're a small business, but please reach out, because there are some resources that are not very costly that can be of tremendous value to you. Okay, next slide. So I want you to throw out what you know, what you've heard, or what you think about existing sources for non-traditional finance. So you can park these. I just threw them out because I don't think they're helpful. There may be a place and time for them, but what I've learned over my 17 years of working with businesses is that these opportunities are either hard to access or they just don't work. So I know we've all heard borrow from friends and family, get working capital loans, which is virtually impossible for a startup business. Bootstrapping, I always tell people I can't bootstrap if I don't have the material to make a boot, right? I don't even have a boot. I can't bootstrap. Venture capital, there's a time and a place and a space for it, but it's not for everybody. And angel investments, which is a world that we hear a lot about, but at the same time, it's probably not going to align with most businesses out there. So I wouldn't say that they would be the best modes to think about when you're looking to build your business. But let's go to the next slide and talk about what may work. Next slide. So there's different grant programs out there, and they are far and huge. Ever since, we kind of had this reckoning in the United States around diversity and equitable inclusion, we've seen a lot of different entities, everybody from the state all the way down to, corporations around the world that are looking to make investments in Black and brown spaces. That is great. But again, your ability to access them is based on your industry, might be some demographic limitations, like where you're located, and your ability to access them will depend on having your business house in order. Okay, but let me talk about a couple of grant programs that are coming up, which may be very useful to you and that you may have heard about if you've been listening to the news or you're on the circuit. So, the ARPA funds, the American Act, is something that's come out through the Biden administration. And basically, states are getting money to make sure that we are building back better, which includes equity and inclusion. As a result of that, through my work with the coalition, the Ethnic and Diverse Business Coalition, we were able to successfully levy, if you will, or advocate for $75 million to go to underrepresented communities throughout the state of Wisconsin. Half of that will go to organizations that provide technical assistance, like the Business Council and others. The other half will go to CDFIs, and we'll cover that in the next slide, what those are and what they do. But we'll go to community development financial institutions, and they will be given out in the form of grants or loans. The reason that is important is because it might provide you with some micro grants or, opportunities to grow your business if you're here in the state of Wisconsin, which is always great, but you will need to have a relationship with the CDFI to access those funds. Those funds are not available yet. They had to be applied for, and the state is still figuring out who they're going to give what to, but I will say probably around March and April. And if you're in the Color Bowl system, right, or they have access where they can let you know, we'll definitely let you know when those funds are available, and then you will be able to go to a CDFI and access those funds to help you with your business. But I want you to note this. As of last year, and you'll see this on your taxes if you're in, because you are a business owner thinking about owning a business, if you have accessed any grants in 2021, they now count as income. Okay, so just know that even though it's to help you with your business and to help you kind of get ahead, that money has to be counted as income. Okay, so you have to count it. You're probably going to have to pay some taxes on it. I don't know what the federal rules are, but just know that any grants that you have coming in from anybody, whether it's ARPA dollars, a private foundation, some of these companies that are, giving money out to the communities, to underserved communities, do know that those will be counted as income moving forward. So it's not as easy on the tax side as it used to be to garner these opportunities. So that's that for grants. Let's talk about other non-traditional ways to garner funds, though. Next slide, please. So I talked about community development financial institutions. They'll be administering those grants throughout the state of Wisconsin. But let me tell you why they are good and why you really want to establish a relationship with them. They are not banks, okay, but they are lenders, and they have flexibility, meaning that they can look at your character. They count a myriad of things versus just your credit score, and if your business plan sounds like it'll work, right? Which makes bank financing really hard. The banking industry is not going to change, okay? It's highly regulated. It is buried in its rules and whatnot. But the CDFIs play that gap between business owners and banks, and their goal is to give you or get you the capital that you need, whether it be through loans or other products that they may offer, and then to be able to, once you repay that money, to be able to hopefully be bankable once you're stable and you're in the existing phase of your business, which is 3 or 3 or more years. Not saying that you can't go to a CDFI. If you're more than 3 years old, you can go to a CDFI whenever you feel like you need to, but just know that they can be a little bit more flexible than banks, and that is because they were created specifically for underserved communities to make sure that they were getting the funding that they needed or that we needed to run successful businesses. So just know why CDFIs are important. I know the phone's going to be ringing off the hook when those funds come, and that's great, but do really consider, depending on what you need for your business, building a longer term relationship with those CDFIs, because they are very, very important to help with our business growth. So here are some other strategies that work. It requires some hustle. It requires some step one, okay, having step one complete, but I think they can be helpful. Microfinancing. Microfinancing means that you need loans of 10,000 or less. Some micro finance go up to 25,000, but they are a way for you to be able to get the cash that you need to be able to operate your business. Those microfinancing loans are usually a little bit higher in interest than what a traditional banking loan would be, but they can help you to kind of fill a gap, especially if you need to do so pretty quickly. So just know that that's out there. Crowdfunding. We've all heard of like Kiva Zip and other crowdfunding solutions out there, such as, Lending Club, Kickstarter, you name it, they're out there, right? Those are great opportunities to raise funding. However, again, you got to have your PR, your marketing kind of in place, be able to tell people what you do succinctly, get them to like you so that they want to buy in, leverage those families and friends, then that family leverage your family and friends, but really, it's good. It takes some hustle, but it can work for you and get you what you need. Peer-to-peer lending platforms. So, again, I covered that in crowdfunding. Usually crowdfunding, you rely on your network and people that you know, and they spread it for you. Peer-to-peer, you might not know these people, but they still believe in you and what you're trying to achieve, and they help make it happen for you. But it's basically crowdfunding, probably just for people that you don't know. Bartering. So bartering is centuries old. It's probably how the economy started, but nobody will give it its fair due. However, I know a lot of business owners in my 17 years that have been able to get what they need because they barter with other businesses. So if you offer a product or a service, and let's say you need some financial help, you need help setting up your QuickBooks system, find a bookkeeper or an accountant and see, instead of you exchanging cash, if your product or service could be something that you could use to help offset the cost of their services, or that you all could exchange. Okay. Now, that's not putting immediate money in your pocket. However, what it is doing is two things. Number one is getting your product in the hands of, or your service in the hands of, a new customer. And that customer, if they like it, will tell others about you, right? So that's the first thing. But the second thing is this: you're getting what you need to sustain and grow your business, but then you're getting what you need to grow and sustain, but then again, they're also getting the benefit of trying your product and your service. So it's a win-win, or it can be a win-win for both. Build a solid network and leverage it properly. So I cannot emphasize this enough. Okay. I just talked about when you get your product in the hands of somebody else, how it can be helpful, because you've obtained a new customer. I want you to always look at people not for what they can do for you or your business, but the value that you can add to them and that relationship that you're building. Okay, which is different. And I'm going to say that one more time. When you look or you approach people, do not do it based on what you can get from it. I want you to make connections and leverage said connections based on the value of what you offer and how you can help them solve their problems. Okay. And if something more comes from that, right, depending on the relationship and how it's built, that's fine. But I really want people to start thinking like that, because when you start thinking like that, that's when you start making those solid business connections that you need to be able to grow your business. It's non-traditional because it's not just, handing you a check or having you fill out a ton of applications, but what it's doing is really, hopefully, at some point in time, helping you to build a solid relationship, whether it be a year or two down the road. Okay. So just think about that. Obtain business credit. So business credit is kind of a nuance. Most businesses, when they start, you are that everything as far as your business, you're relying on your personal credit score. Okay. And that's just the way it is. You cannot ink out. And by ink out, I mean that you do not get, from under that liability until you're at like a multi-million-dollar level. Okay. So that means that everything you do with your business, when you're trying to access capital through loans or whatnot, will be dependent on your credit score, your personal credit score. However, there is also something called business credit, and you can go to Duns and Bradstreet. You can also go to the FDIC, the Federal Depository court for the federal government, the people that insure our money. They actually have information about business credit, what it is, how you set it up, and how you can use it. But the reason business credit is very important is because it gives your business credibility. And as you're growing and you're coming upon customers that may not know who you are or what you do or how other people have done business with you, business credit can speak a lot for you. Okay, so definitely consider building business credit because, again, that can lead to getting more money for your business and building those business relationships. Last thing I'm going to say before we open up for questions, access the technical assistance that is available to you. There are a myriad, including Color Bold, of entities across the state that offer this kind of assistance. And technical assistance is not, money. What it is, though, is giving you what you need to build your business. I dropped some jewels today, but there are a ton more based on your business and your situation that you may need. Please, please, please reach out to a chamber or an organization like Color Bold or others within your area that may help you build your business. It is not costly. There might be a small investment, but I will tell you from experience that it is probably the best way and the most strategic way to really build your business solidly and to be able to work through the pipeline, if you will, of business resources that are out here and that are dedicated to your growth within the state of Wisconsin. So with that said, we can go to the next slide and open it up for questions.
I told you guys you're going to get a lot of information from Marjorie. That was awesome. That was very, very awesome. Thank you so much, Marjorie, for being with us today and sharing your wealth of knowledge with us. We got a ton of questions for you, so hope you're ready.
Yeah.
But first, please restate the names of, at the beginning, you said something about an act.
Oh, yeah. The American Rescue Plan Act, and we call it ARPA. So ARPA. But the American Rescue Plan Act is the Economic Recovery Act that the Biden administration has set to help us, what they are calling Build Back Better.
Okay. And then you said FDIC. Can you tell us again what that stands for?
Yes, I am going to Google that because I don't look. Those are the people that insure our money at the banks and the credit unions. So I got to get it right. I missed the I, so let me. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. So the FDIC, and y'all see it when you go to the bank. They got the little sticker that say your money is insured. That's the federal government entity that insures our monies, and that's the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, or FDIC. And their website is fdic.gov.
So we have a question on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Is ARPA only available to nonprofit businesses?
Yes. So no, our funds are not only available to nonprofits. Again, if you are looking to obtain a grant for your business or a forgivable loan. And every CDFI is going to set up their product differently. Okay. So you're going to have to, make the phone calls and kind of see what they're offering and what products work best for you. But if you go to those CDFIs, you will be able to apply for a grant or a forgivable loan for your business. But they are open for profit businesses. They're just being administered through the CDFIs.
How do we find out like where is the closest CDFI, or is it just like, is one in my town? Are they like throughout the state? Like, how do I find out about a CDFI?
That's a great question. So there are CDFIs. I'm going to tell you exactly how many are here in the state of Wisconsin. And I can tell you that I don't know if every CDFI in the state applied for these funds, because these funds were really targeted to ethnic and diverse or underserved populations. So I don't know who all applied and how that money is going to be distributed, but there are, let me tell you how many CDFIs in
And then as you're looking, Marjorie, for the number of CDFIs, hopefully you can hear me still, but as you're looking for the number of CDFIs, can you also tell us what do CDFI stand for?
Okay, so it looks like there's 22 or 23. I can't count the dots on my phone, but it looks like there's 22 to 23 CDFIs throughout the state of Wisconsin. I will tell you that the CDFIs that I know and that I work closely with that will be administering programs, there's one statewide, and that's the Hmong Chamber of Commerce of Wisconsin. There's also First American Capital, which is native based, but anybody can access either of those funds. There's also Northwest Side CDC, which is in Milwaukee. There's Legacy Redevelopment Corp, which is in Milwaukee. And I'm trying to think of the others. There's WIBIC. I know that they applied, and they'll probably get some of it because they work with a large population of underserved businesses. And I don't know others that may have applied, but I can tell you that those are the ones. CDFI stands for Community Development Financial Institution.
And so I also think CAP Services is
okay.
One.
The CAP apply. Okay,
great. I believe so.
Okay,
that's awesome. So we definitely can be on the lookout for those grants that are coming out. You said grants and loans that are coming out through CDFIs.
Yeah.
I think you had said that we have to have an established relationship with them. How
do you go about establishing a relationship? So this is what I would tell you to do. Just reach out, tell them that, they apply for ARPA funding, and see if they have some type of database that they keep, that they'll just send out a notice or release, right? If those funds become available, right? So if they're awarded, get on their list or on their database, because they'll send newsletters. They might send an alert, we got the monies, this is what it includes. They'll all probably do it differently, but that's how you establish the relationship, right? If you don't have a need to go to them outside of accessing those grants or those forgivable loans based on whatever their program looks like, just ask to get on their list. You can also probably just go to their websites and subscribe. I'm sure that they all have a way that you can just go in and put your email address, but I would say that's probably the quickest and easiest way to be involved. Now, if you're looking for a significant amount of capital, or you're looking for a line of credit or something like that, that's a different conversation. And it still wouldn't be a bad idea to establish maybe call and make an appointment to talk to one of the officers or something like that, to see if you would qualify for that, and to really just have a conversation about your finances. And then if they feel like it would be a good fit, they could encourage you to do an application.
Okay.
So you had mentioned how now we have to pay taxes on these grants. Um,
Yeah. You're gonna have to pay tax. Now I don't know if it's all of them. Like I said, I am not part of the Fed or the IRS. But all I know is business owners are mad because they have had to pay taxes on they have to count it as income. Whether they pay taxes or not is how everything flushes out on your expense side, right, in your final income or whatnot. But yes, now you on, and I don't know if it's all grants or if it's just ones that have come from the ARPA dollars, but talk to your tax professional about that because you will get hit.
do you have any advice for people who grants as to what we can do to prepare for a possible payment of the taxes on the grants?
I would say just talk to your, whoever you have preparing your taxes. If you do them yourself, look to see if you're going to owe, like how you can go on where's and put in all your information, it can kind of tell you, and then reach out to an accountant and see if you are going to have some tax liability or whatnot. Reach out to them to kind of navigate through that process. I'm personally scared of the Fed, so I do have somebody and I pay them to tell me how much money I got to pay them, and then we just do that. But do reach out to a professional that can help you. I will say this: you can play with a lot of people and you can skate, but the IRS is going to get their money. And you want to give it to them or offer it on the front end, then them hitting you on the back end, because when they hit you, they wait until that interest, that penalty done just hit enough where they can make some money, and then they start coming, right? So I would say, just really start being honest about it. If you don't have all of it at one time, that is okay. They have some really, really good payment plans that are out there that are not onerous at all. But please get you some representation and negotiate, those terms with the IRS, because and you can call the IRS too, and they can tell you what to do and be flexible or whatnot. But please, y'all, don't play with them. We see and hear a lot of stuff that's been going on, especially about people that were accessing some of these loans, like PP, the paycheck protection and whatnot, and they starting to serve time and have to pay fines, and for $5,000 or $10,000, it's just not worth it. So just make sure that you are really transparent, and that's where your financial software comes into play as well, right? When you're keeping everything, meaning your income, whether it's a grant, whether it's income from doing business, etc., along with the expenses to run your business, it makes it that much easier for you and your bookkeeper or accountant or the person preparing your taxes to be able to see everything very clean, and it can go really, really smooth.
Yeah, I am definitely too pretty for jail. So
Yeah,
let me
yeah,
get my.
I got the heart.
Like,
Yeah, I got the heart for the time, man. It's worse than Fed out here, so yeah, I'm not trying to go to either. Yeah.
You had mentioned about leveraging your network. Can you give us like two or three like uh, ways that we can do that? How to make a connection?
Yes. So depending on your personality and who you are, right? There are tons of ways that you can do this. So if you're a person that likes to be out, you like to network at different functions. Let's say that you're going to a luncheon, for example, right? And you're sitting at a table, and they, encourage you to introduce yourself, or even if they don't, when you sit down, you just say hi, give your name, and you sit down, or your name and your business. But as you're kind of talking, right, because they always provide that dead space for folks to get to know each other and kind of go around the table. Again, that's your PR. Have that 30-second pitch, and not pitch to get, but just to be able to tell people what you do very succinctly, but where they understand it without going into a lot of detail, because that can help. Maybe somebody else sitting at the table would like to add you to their list of vendors or their network, right, as another person that they know that provides what you provide, or whatnot. So that's just kind of a quick dirty way to do it, right? If you're networking, going around introducing yourself to people. I know that we haven't been doing it traditionally like we did, prior to 2020, but I know some things are opening back up and people are still gathering. So just make sure that you're always, like I said, you can articulate what you do cleanly and succinctly. I'll give you some success stories that I've seen, and these are the examples. So one is with a major corporation, they offer an event where it's kind of like, they'll invite certain people to come together and kind of talk shop after hours, right? And it's a work related event. They pick up the tab. It's a really, really nice time. Somebody that gets invited to that event regularly brought a business owner, one of my members, to that event because they felt like there were people in the room that could potentially use their product or their service. So that person went, and that next year, now this is an established business. They've been in business for a minute, been exposed to this network, okay, or the people that were in that room. But the next year, I think 2 years, they were actually able to, get a pretty sizable contract, like $3 million, from networking or being in that room. Now, again, it was invite only. They could bring a friend, and you know how they say you can bring your friend, but we need to know your friend before you bring them, right? You can't just bring everybody, right? But you bring, somebody that you think will be good, right? They know how to hang out, they know how to chum and all that, but they know how to handle their business. They know how to articulately, they know how to articulate succinctly what they do. They were able to do that. They were able to, indulge in the cocktails and food and whatever and have a good time. And then after that meeting, be able to, continue to build that relationship on a business level. Okay. They didn't get it confused with, I was in the room with you. You said to call you. So therefore I no longer automatically get that opportunity. Right. But after that, they were able to, because they had established introduction, right? They had been exposed to each other. They followed up and made sure that they provided, some extra insight into what they were doing, learned about the projects that were coming up that they could participate on, and then were able to participate in them in a couple of years from then, because they did the work, they followed up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting you're talking about just, it's almost like you have to almost get out of your comfort zone in some capacity, right? But then definitely if you're comfortable, just get out there and expand that circle. You were talking about the different ways of going out here and being able to get some access to funding. Mm-hmm. Is there some things that we should be cautious of in this or mindful of? Because sometimes we get excited and we just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna jump out and I'm gonna go and get microfinancing or peer-to-peer or bartering. Is it some things that from what you've seen, your professional thoughts and opinions of what I should be mindful of as a business owner?
I always say if it sounds too good to be true, it is, right? So, you get those, oh, we got, $10,000 for you tomorrow if you sign up here, that might be true, but that interest rate might be 40%, right? You don't want to borrow $1,000 and be paying $1,400 back, right? So, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. But the other thing I would say is really budget for your business and what your needs are. So, that can go back into step one, but you really need to know, remember I said, set your goals for the next 1 or 2 years, no more than 2 things at a time. Okay. Cause you'll drive yourself crazy trying to go into all these different buckets and baskets. But once you do that, really establish a budget. What is it going? What is the cost of doing business? Right. And really establish what that looks like. And then you can put on there whatever your margins would be, right? And then from there, because you have a really tight plan, you can go out there and be more strategic with how you're moving. Okay. But yeah, so that's what I would say. I mean, it's not, there's no magic bullet or anything like that. It really just takes strategy and intentionality and really thinking it out and what's best for your business and your scenario.
And pay them taxes. All right. So
Damn.
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 So we are honored again to have Marjorie Rucker with us from the Business Council. Her website is on the screen now, thebusinesscouncilmke.com. Feel free to reach out to her if you have any questions or need any support in anything, as well as us, Color Bold, or any other organization that you know of that does technical assistance, like she explained earlier in her presentation. We have a survey in the comment section. Please fill out the survey for us if you enjoyed this presentation today. Please fill out the survey so that we can bring you more content that you need, as well as join us tomorrow, which is our second day in this 3-day financial workshop. We will be coming back again live tomorrow on the 8th of February at 12 p.m. with our next session, and you don't want to miss it. Definitely go back and watch the one from today at 12 o'clock, the one at 1 o'clock today, and the one just now that you just heard again. Replay it, because I'm sure there'll be something that you missed or skipped over as it was going. When we definitely hope that this information will be a great benefit to you. And we know that everything that we've said today, you can definitely apply it right now in your business. So if you're watching the replay, feel free to put your questions and comments into the comment section, and we'll definitely get back to you on that. Until tomorrow.
Nice.
Take care.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Sessions, because they lit and they're necessary. Like, seriously, replay them, everybody. That's my instruction to you all. Yes. Great series. Thank you guys so much.
No problem.